So, welcome to another episode of Women Petpreneurs Podcast with your host, Mary Oquendo. So, my guest today is literally an icon in the industry. It's Judi Cantu Thacker. Hey, Judi.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to do this with you.
No, I'm so glad you're here too. I've known Judi for a really long time.
Long time.
Longer than maybe we care to admit.
Yeah.
But I just want to make mention for those who are not watching on YouTube, in the background, Judi has a deer with Christmas balls on its
Yeah.
antler.
Yes, he gets decorated or dressed for every occasion that we have here at the house.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, I think that's kind of fun.
Well, we actually have three of them. The big one that you see here is the one that it was one of my dad's. And then we've got one for my son and one for my husband. So it's kind of a family kind of a thing. All three of them hang up together, kind of hang out and watch the dogs while we're gone.
Okay. How the dogs like it? I'm curious.
They don't even notice it. I think it's because it was here when they got here. So, I mean, gosh, my dad probably did that back in 1982, 83. So I've had it since we've lived here in 2004. So
Okay.
I guess the dogs never really notice it.
Okay. So let's start off with how did you get involved in the pet industry?
This is only an hour show, right? Because actually, I was born, both my parents were groomers. My biological dad was the first groomer in the family. He passed away when I was 7 in 1977, and my mom kind of got thrown into the business, took over his business. She had no idea. The only thing she had was a pair of scissors and Sam Cole's book. So she had to teach herself how to groom. So a couple years later, I'm 9 years old. I started bathing dogs for her. She remarried when I was 10. My father, Lonnie Lang, a lot of people in the industry know him. Um, he raised me, and they started manufacturing dryers, and then we started manufacturing apparel. So it was the Lang dryers and Evolution Apparel. I started doing trade shows with them, and when I was 19, I went to a trade show and I saw Terry D and Kathy Rose and Liz Paul in the grooming ring, and I was like, wait a minute, I want to do that. And of course, I was not allowed to groom dogs because my mom always swore that she would not have a daughter that was a dog groomer. I was supposed to go to college and be an engineer of some sort, 7 years of math and 4 years of high school, and ended up being a groomer. So I kind of, I started bathing dogs when I was 9, started seriously grooming when I was 21. I had to do it behind my mom's back. One of her friends hired me as a bather for the holidays and started teaching me to groom.
Okay. Do we know you? Do we know that friend?
No, her name was Sue Kiss. We lost track of each other a long time ago. This was in 1991.
Wow.
So yeah, a very, very long time ago.
Okay. I dipped my feet into the pet industry probably like around 1999.
Okay.
Right. So I remember seeing you at the trade shows in the beginning. You're an early mobile groomer.
I am an early mobile. Well, actually, no, I didn't start mobile till 2004. No,
Oh,
I'm sorry. I started mobile in 2008.
wow. I thought you were mobile before I was.
Well, I did do a little bit of mobile grooming for somebody else at one point. I got bit in the face and thought, this is stupid. I'm never doing this again. Literally, the truck that I drove, I could see the ground running underneath my feet. The van was so old and decrepit. And that was probably somewhere around 92 or 93. I've kind of run the gamut on grooming. I've worked in vet clinics. I've worked in pet resorts. I did a little bit of mobile before I started this big mobile business, not big mobile, but my main mobile business that I have now. I worked in a pet store at one time that I did grooming there, and I actually did grooming at a feed store. which kind of was rough in Texas because it was kind of in a barn in the summertime. So I've kind of, when it comes to grooming, I've groomed in all of the places except for corporate. I have never worked in one of the box stores,
Okay.
but I've pretty much worked in any grooming place that you could.
Yeah, I think so. Now I started mobile in 2002, and I think not much earlier prior to that is when the manufacturer started actually manufacturing commercial vans.
Yes. Yeah.
And then,
Well, and because of my background, I had a really good relationship with Dina Perry, who, with Wagon Tails. I remember at one point, Dennis and I were both 19 years old, and Dina was manufacturing a dryer, and my parents were manufacturing a dryer, and they sent me and Dennis to sell dryers, and we were the youngest people at the trade show, so we just kind of hung out together. But yeah, I mean, when Dina started with Wagon Tails, and I talk a lot about Wagon Tails because that's what I have, that's what I know. I remember when she first started, and I just kind of watched and watched, and I always thought I wanted to do it, but I wasn't really sure. And Dina would kind of talk me, "Hey, Judi, when are you gonna pull the trigger? When are you gonna go mobile?" And so yeah, those were kind of the early years when you started, when mobile was starting to take off.
now my first van was a custom vehicles. All right. And then from there, I went into a Hanvey van. I'm going to tell you why I love Dina Perry. Okay. So I'm at, and I think it was the Rhode Island trade show, but it could have been Hershey. It was one of them. And a friend of mine had a Wagon Tails, and she had brought the van there, and she was having trouble with it. Dina Perry, in an evening dress and heels, was in the back of that van helping helping her get that van fixed.
Yeah, that's Dina. When my father passed away, when Lonnie passed away, Dina Perry called me and said, "Let me come run your shop so you can take some time off with your family." I mean, she would do anything, or she still would. She's always been there for a lot of us in the industry. She's just an amazing woman.
Yeah, yeah, I was so impressed by that. And
Yeah.
the second thing is, now this is I'm a new groomer, okay, and I'm like beating myself up because I'm sitting here flipping through a groomer to groomer, and I can't. Why can't I groom like this, right? And I was so focused on Dina Perry's and her poodles, all right, and
Hmm.
because I was like really beating myself up over why my poodles don't look like our poodles, okay, that I noticed in the photo, because I was like staring so intently at it, that there was a hair out of place. And that for me was really a defining moment in my career,
Yeah.
to stop nitpicking. Do you know how much faster I got at grooming when I stopped doing that?
And it's still hard. I mean, there are some days that I'm more nitpicky than others, but there are days that you kind of go, you know, it's what we see isn't what the client sees.
Correct.
And so we kind of have to take off our groomer glasses sometimes and kind of look at it from the pet owner's point of view.
Yeah.
Of course, you want it to be neat and clean and a nice finish, but yeah, not everybody's perfect. Like I'm very blessed to have come into the industry when I did. Like I said, when my first competition that I ever saw was literally Liz Paul, you know, Terry DiMarino. I got to see Terry DiMarino and Kathy Rose compete in the competitions. I was there. I saw the first Groom Team USA. I bathed dogs for Terry D and for Kathy Rose to compete. I went to the trade shows. They said, "Hey, can you bathe my dog? I'm in the ring already. Get this dog ready for me." I got a lot of experience and time with some of the people that people hear about but don't actually know who they are. The people who started this industry and got it to where it is now. Because, back in the 70s when my dad was grooming was nothing it like it is now. I mean, literally, he would charge $6.50 for a poodle for the same dog I'm charging $100 for now.
Yeah.
So I was lucky that when I started my career, my actual career, I came in when all of these greats were setting the groundwork for the rest of us. And I really got to see the whole thing from, from dirt to planting the seed to watching the seedlings grow to the blossom that it's become today. Um, so I have a lot of love and respect for this industry. And I'm just real excited about what's happening today, especially with mobile grooming. Mobile grooming has just really taken off,
Yeah.
especially since COVID.
Well, even prior to that. So like I said, I got started in 2002 and it was unheard of, right? I literally had somebody call me up and say, I almost ran into a tree trying to get your number off the side of your van. So yeah, and from 2002 to today, it's still been a huge leap. And you know what? One of the things I really credit with how at least my business started off with is that I had nothing to compare myself in the area. Right? So when I literally doubled and tripled the price of grooming in my area, all right, there was there was no other basis for that, right? Because there was no other mobile groomer around. Well, you know what? This is what mobile grooming costs.
Right.
You know, that was kind of the end of the question. It wasn't, well, the other one charges this price. Well, I'm like, well, goody for them. Um,
But even when I started my business in 2008, it's been 14 years now. And to be honest with you, okay, if you know me from the trade shows and you know me as a groomer, I can sit and talk to you all day long. But honestly, I'm really, really kind of shy and very awkward. um, and so when I got my mobile in 2008 and I would drive it down the road, I was embarrassed. I would like people would be staring and looking and it was because they were interested in the van, but I just felt like I was walking around with just like everybody was staring at me
I
and
see.
I would
I'm like the
literally sink down.
total opposite. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, yeah, look at me, you
But
know?
and I don't like to draw attention. So I was like, oh my God, everybody's looking at me. What am I gonna do? And so it's funny because like I said, if you know me at the trade shows, I talk to everybody. I can talk all day long about grooming, but with me being so shy, it was a real change. When I was in a grooming salon and I was working and people would come in, I had no problem talking to them. But being out in the street and in the open where everybody was, it was such a change for me. It was kind of scary.
I think the only time I slunk down in my seat is that where I lived, when I turned the corner to hit in one direction, there was a house there and they had a husky in there. And the husky was not well maintained. And
Yeah.
literally every time I drove past that, I was like, please don't take down this number. Please don't take down this number. Please don't take down this number.
And that's funny that you say that because now, even when I'm driving my Dodge, when I'm driving my truck, and I see a dog, I don't look at the dog, don't
Don't
make eye contact with the owner.
when I moved out here to Washington, right? So now I made the decision that I'm going to retire. I'm not going to groom anymore. It's really not feasible to groom mobile one day a week because then the only thing I'm doing is paying bills on it. So what's the point?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm checking out the vet's office where I'm going to be bringing my dog and I want to see where the kennel is and stuff like that. So they're walking me through the office. And of course, this is pre-COVID and literally just pre-COVID. Right. And I see a grooming station that's obviously not being used. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And the only thing I'm thinking, blinders on, don't look over there. Don't look over there. They do not need a groomer. Obviously, they don't need a groomer because there's nobody working there. Shut up, eyes forward, keep walking.
Yes. And the table is drawing you to it.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, no, you know what? When you make a decision, you really got to kind of stick to that decision.
Yeah, yeah. I'm 53 now, and I started grooming when I was 21, career wise, and I'm nowhere near ready to stop. I love it. It's I guess because I was just born into it, it's my everyday, it's my function. And I hear a lot of groomers that are my age and even younger that have the back problems and the hand problems and the wrist problems. And I don't have any of those problems. I have knee problems because, well, I'm a little too heavy. But other than that, I've been able to maintain um, strength in places that other groomers haven't.
Why
I
do you
have to
think
say,
that is?
I don't know. I don't, I want to say it's because I learned a lot from great teachers. I learned how to hold my scissors properly. I learned how to hold my brush. I buy the best tools that I can buy to make my job easier. Um, I don't know if you were around when Melissa Verplank and Vivian Nash used to do the scissor size. Where they would show you how to move your body as you were scissoring so that you weren't leaning over and keeping the dog at the right level between your shoulders and your waistline so you're not reaching up too high and you're not bending down too low. Learning how to pick up a dog. I think a
Yeah.
lot of groomers don't know. I mean, I do a lot of big dogs. Now, saying that, I do have most of my clients are on a weekly, 2 week, or 4 week schedule. So even all of my big dogs know how to they put their feet on the table. I pick up the rest of them. And wagon tails are set up so they just walk the plank and get into the bathtub. But I don't struggle with a lot of dogs. And so, being 50, almost 53, I'll be 53 in February, but being mobile for 14 years. So I started my mobile, I guess I was 2008, I was 38. Is that right? 48, 38, 38. um, I was 38. And so I was already, well seasoned as a groomer. But I don't work as many difficult, struggling dogs as I used to when I was 38 and younger because everybody's on a 1, 2, or 4 week schedule. The dogs are used to it. Literally, I had a client who had 5 doodles, and I would get to her place, and I have an Elite, so it's a big truck, and I could put all 5 doodles in there, and they knew what order they went in. Charlie would get on the table, I'd brush him out, do his prep work, put him in the tub, and as soon as I rinsed him off, Bella would get on the table because she knew she was going to trade places with Charlie and she was next in the tub. And so because the dogs were done so often or are done so often, they're used to it. It's their routine. They know when I pick up the cologne, they're finished.
Yep.
They know when I put down the brush, they're finished. They know what my next move is most of the time before I do.
Well, and that makes things go so much faster. So I did
Yeah.
work box store and I was training somebody. I was sort of testing to see if somebody could work. All right. And one of the dogs I used as a tester was my Shepherd Malamute
Mhm.
because you have to know how to like wash and dry a dog. Okay.
Right.
Kira was one of the test dogs. And she was a big dog and she would get up on the table by herself. She was used to, she loved the grooming process. But you know what? The groom wasn't over until the bandana came on.
Right.
Okay. And she's the person who's testing is like, I'm done. And she goes, why is she looking at me like that? I'm like, because she didn't put a bandana on her. She's not done.
She's
And
not finished.
she's not finished. And the second she put the bandana on her, she's like, I'm done. Jumped off the
I'm
table. I'm out of here.
out of here, gone, bye, see ya, thanks.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, dogs are very much they like routine. They do really well with it. And so yeah, I do love the fact that I just keep my schedule really tight, 1, 2, and 4 weekers. Makes my life easier. And I think that's what's kind of not I don't have so much hard work. I'm not heavily dematting dogs. If I'm dematting a dog, it's usually mine because we went camping and he's got sticker burrs and I wait 2 weeks and he was swimming in the lake. And then I'm like, oh, my dog's a hot mess.
You know what? I credit like my longevity because I didn't even start in the industry until I was 38 years old.
Yeah.
So when I started in the industry, I was really aware of that. You know what? I was 38 years old. I wasn't 20 years old, and I needed to maybe take better care of myself. And I did that because I went to trade shows and I listened to other people. Right?
Mhm.
And I also credit the fact that I was kind of like thrown into the mix at the box store I was at. And I didn't have a lot of, people there. Right. So what I didn't have is I didn't have people saying, well, that's not the way we do things. I had to figure out what worked best, not only for the pets in my care, but what also for myself. Right? Yeah, you know what? That $100 mat on the floor is really a worthwhile investment.
Yeah, yeah. And you should have one in your kitchen in front of the sink too, because you need them everywhere that you're standing. And I'm a groomer who doesn't like to sit. I know there's a lot of groomers that sit when they're working because they think, oh, you need to sit. It's, bad on your knees, it's bad on your legs if you're standing up. I cannot groom sitting down. I am a stand-up groomer. And once I sit down, I'm done for the day. That's it. I'm done. So even when I get home, if I've got stuff to do, I need to get it done because once my rear hits that couch, I'm done. But I've never been able to groom sitting down. So I'm one of those groomers that has to walk around my table constantly.
Well, you know what? It's change up. It's changing the body up and not having that sustained posture, which I think for mobile groomers, that's inherent in what we do because we work, then we go drive someplace. We work,
Yeah,
and so our bodies, we're always changing up our body positions.
yeah,
So we're sitting down to drive, we're walking out to the person's home to get the pet and come back in. All right. And then if we're standing in the van, whether you're standing or you sit down or whatever it is, there's still that you're not sustaining a specific posture. So it's easier on your joints. Of course, good shoes, that floor
yes.
matting is oh so important. So you know what? You don't want to buy a mat because it's $100. I'm saying you go buy that mat. Okay.
Yeah, you buy that mat, you buy that, the pair of scissors, you buy those clippers, you buy everything costs good things, good quality products, ergonomic products cost money,
Yeah.
which, brings us back to, you were talking about how you were the highest price groomer in your area. So many people have this idea of mobile grooming being, should cost less because we don't have as much overhead. I can't even tell you how much money I have in overhead. And let's not even talk about the business portion of
Yes.
my business. Let's just talk about the shampoo, the clippers, scissors, combs, maintenance on all of my equipment,
Mhm.
um, good shoes, good, good table. Oh my God, a table is priceless.
Yeah.
All of that costs money and all of that has to be repaired and taken care of. So your overhead on that alone, but then you also have to add in the business end.
Yep.
If I'm a groomer and Chris Leeds, she is a godsend. um, I don't even know where I would be with my business if it wasn't for her. But I have CPA fees. I have or she's not a CPA, she's an EA. But I have fees for there was something else I was thinking about advertising. Um, you just have my payroll
Mhm.
company. I have those fees so that I'm not having to figure up taxes and make sure that I write a check to the tax man. My payroll company takes care of all that. But for them to do that, it costs me money to have the
Mhm.
payroll company. And I'm a groomer. There are certain things that we have to understand that we can do and that we can't do.
Yep.
Just like we don't want our clients grooming their dogs. There's certain parts of our business that are usually better off in the hands of someone else, but that costs money.
Yes. Well, and there's another way to look at it too, right? So, um, I have an accountant. The accountant does my taxes. I would never do my taxes, never. All right. I don't want to figure out what my estimated tax payments are. All I want is him to hand in my bookkeeping and say, and then he's going to go through it, and then he's going to say, okay, um, you did a good job with the estimated taxes, so we're good here. Or you know what, you made more money, and we have to up our estimated taxes. But he figures all of that for me, and then he hands me a bill, and which I gladly pay it. right? Because if I have to figure out my own taxes, it is not in my wheelhouse. I'm going to miss deductions. All right. I'm not necessarily going to figure out the correct amount of my estimated taxes. And if I don't figure out the correct estimated taxes, that means there's a fine that the IRS and the state levies upon you because you underestimated. And they're like, yeah, I should have done a better job with this. Here's a fine to make sure you get on top of that for next year. Okay. And it's going to take me way longer. I'm going to spend literally 2-3 days trying to figure out my taxes because I don't want to do it. Okay. I don't have the education to do it. It's not like my accountant who's literally going to plug and play. He knows all this stuff. It's going to take him an hour to do my taxes. Okay.
Right.
You know how much money I can make doing what I do best? Okay. Rather than trying to figure out my taxes.
Right. Well, and a lot of groomers, especially you've seen this huge boom in the mobile industry since COVID. People had to close their salons. They figured the way to go around it was to go mobile. Some opened up their own mobiles. Some went to work for other mobiles. The majority go into business for themselves, but they go into business for themselves with their eyes closed. They really have no idea how much it takes to run a business. I've run my business for 14 years with just me being the only groomer. I appreciate getting paid 35%. Where, I was always a 50% groomer. I'm not going to let somebody make money off of my talent. Why do they get half of what I earned? If it weren't for me, they wouldn't have this business. Yeah, there's so much more. Yep. That business needs to be funded to be able to run properly. So even as a business owner, I only pay myself 35%. Chris has set me up as an S Corp, so I'm able to write a payroll. I'm able to get payroll. So my taxes is taken out, and at the end of the year, I'll get a W-2. But of course, now that COVID is ending, you're seeing all of these mobiles that didn't make it. Why didn't they make it? Because they came in and they weren't charging enough. Yeah. They didn't take into consideration all of the stuff that you've got to have, the insurance, the gas, the payment on the truck.
Well, let's not forget a salary for yourself, a living salary for yourself.
A living salary, yes.
Planning for retirement. And
that's I've always said, on my agenda.
I mean, if you want to groom until they cart your dead body out from underneath the grooming table, and that is what you want, do it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's
if you want to enjoy your golden years, you have to plan for retirement.
Yeah, and I do see 53 coming up, and yeah, I want to retire probably by the time I'm 65. Unfortunately, like most groomers, I haven't prepared for that. Chris is setting me up for this year to start working on that. Now, I've been lucky. I'm married to a man who is in the hotel industry. He's a director of catering, or not catering, I'm sorry, of banquets for Omni Hotels. So we've got his retirement. We've always had health insurance and stuff through him. But for there's a lot of groomers that are single, or, single moms, or they're just single altogether, and their only income that they have is their business. But they need to look at it as a business and not just the money that's coming in this week so I can pay my bills and buy groceries. Yeah. There's a whole lot more to it. And that's one thing I like about having the payroll company. The payroll company that I use this year, I'll be able to sign myself up and my employee up for a 401k plan. And they're also offering health insurance. So, and that's something that I couldn't do before as a sole proprietor groomer that was just taking half of everything that came in and hoping that if my truck broke down, there would be enough money in the bank to fix it.
So we're going to take a quick commercial break.
Okay.
We're just going to admire the stag there.
My deer.
Your deer back there.
My tree.
And we're back. Okay. So again, for those who are watching on YouTube, only the audio gets the commercial, and that's going to be edited in a little bit later. So Anyway, we're back. Yeah, so you got employees. So that's new for you, correct?
I have one new employee. I do. I do. She's actually somebody that I have known for a very long time. We used to work together at a pet resort. And she used to call herself my minion. And when I left to go mobile, she kind of was upset with me for leaving her and the company. And we didn't talk for a couple of years. And then she ended up going mobile, and she told me she was going to go mobile. And I was like, great, come work for me. And she's like, no. And she went to work for somebody else, and work she did. They worked her hard. They worked her long hours. It definitely wasn't. It was good money, but she had to really work hard for that money.
Yeah.
And then she went to work for another resort, and just recently she was having some issues, and we talked. And over the years, every time we would talk, I'd be like, "You should come work for me. You should come work for me," because a few years ago I was able to acquire a grooming van, and it's been sitting since 2016. And I just wanted the
I
right.
remember when you bought that van.
Yeah, well, I couldn't pass it up. It was a deal. And it sat. It literally sat. And so this year, my husband and I were back and forth. We're like, okay, we either sell it or we put someone in it. And it's hard to put someone in it when you've got a certain reputation and you have a certain idea of what you want. I don't expect groomers that work for me to put out show dogs. None of us do. Our everyday dogs, I don't groom show dogs for a living. I groom dogs for a living. But I need dogs that are well taken care of. I need somebody that understands skin and coat. I need someone who understands dog behavior, and I need someone that can represent me with the owner of the pet, because we don't just groom pets. We also have to be able to communicate with the pet owners and carry a professional persona. So finding that person with all that package is hard to do. And she was the one that I'd always had in mind. Finally, this year when she was having her issues at her last job, we just talked, and I didn't offer her the job anymore. And then she was like, "Hey, do you still have that van?" I was like, "Hey, I do." And so we worked something out, and she came to work for me a couple months ago. Now we're building her clientele, and I'm doing something different that nobody else or a lot of groomers don't do. And that is, if it's her regular work day and there are no dogs for her truck, I still pay her for that day.
Yeah.
Just because I feel that she's valuable enough that I want her to stay. She's got 2 kids, and me building up her clientele is still building up my business.
Yeah.
And so it's important to me to know that even though what I'm paying her isn't, what she's going to be making when we build up her clientele, it's enough to help her get by without stress and struggle of everything else she's got going on.
Yeah. You know what? I think that I had no intention of leaving corporate. When I first started corporate, I was going to be corporate till the day I died. Okay. I had no reason to leave. Why would I? All right. I go home, I go to work. I go to work, I go, my dogs, I go home, and end of story. Okay. But that lack of appreciation, that lack of, it can really grate on you. Right. And then when you're trying to do better and they're like, you're just a number as far as they are concerned. It's you leave. I left for I didn't even know what was going to happen because, mobile grooming at that time was like unheard of in my area. And my daughter she had just been accepted to Yale. I quit my job. My daughter was accepted to Yale.
Of course.
Good thing I filled out that FAFSA beforehand.
Well, I do make it a point that, when she works, I call her, I check her in the morning. I make sure that when she gets to her truck in the morning, I check her water, I'll check her gas. She does fill all that stuff up, but I check it just in case, like say she had a really hard day on Friday and she just thought, you know what, I'll fill up my truck on Monday when I get to work. I'll check it on Friday to see if she did. If she didn't, I'll fill the water up for her,
Yeah.
I make sure to tell her, thank you, I appreciate you. Is there anything that you need? Because I know that struggle. I know that struggle of working for somebody and not being appreciated, like you said.
Okay, the worst things you could say as a mobile groomer, I'll do it in the morning.
Truth.
Because I guarantee you, when you say, oh, I'll just get up a little early and fill up the van with water, gas, or maybe even clean up the van because you were tired the day before. Yeah, that ain't gonna happen. You're gonna
Well,
oversleep.
actually, I'm really good. We are a 5 a.m., 6 a.m. household at this house because my husband, now that he's a banquet director of banquets, he has to be at work sometimes at 5 or 6 a.m. So we're up early. And of course, I just became an empty nester. So I just got out of the high school game, which was getting up at 5 or 6 in the morning anyway to get kids to school. So we're early risers. I give myself a cushion. If I want to leave the house at 8, I get up between 5:30 and 6. If I'm leaving the house at 7, I usually get up 4:45, 5 o'clock, because I like to have that 2 hour um, time to get up, shower, do my hair, do my makeup, have my coffee, breathe, watch the news, get a little bit of Michael Strahan before I walk out the door. I don't like to rush out the door. I
I don't
will,
like rushing out
come
the
home.
door either.
No, I'll come home in the afternoon. I'll wash all the towels, get them all ready, and put them in the truck the night before. I kind of get
Mhm.
everything ready to walk out the door in the morning. So, if I have to fill up my truck, because I don't keep my trucks here at home, I keep my trucks at a warehouse that's less than a mile from my home. Um, and I have water facilities and everything there. So I know I can just leave. If I have to be at work at 9, I can leave here at 8:15 and have time to fill up water.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I leave at 8:30. So
Yeah. I mean, honestly, truly, all you want to do is you want to walk to the van with your key in your hand, turn on the engine, and go.
and go. And we don't have it so bad down here in the South where you girls live there up north. My son, is up there with you, and he sent me a Snapchat that said 16 degrees in Washington State. And I said,
It's
no, thank you.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. I can do cold. I'm used to cold. Cold is not an issue. I moved over my winter coats, my hats, my gloves. I know how to layer up. I know how to deal with cold. The reason I moved out here was because there's a whole lot less snow here than there is in Connecticut, at least on the
Yeah.
Pacific side of things. All right. I want to be that person. I want to be the person when it snows. It's like, oh my God, it's snowing. I can't go anywhere. I have to stay home. I did,
That's
I
us.
I want to forget how to drive in the snow. That's a skill that I'm okay with losing. All right.
Yeah, well, we have one person in the household who has that skill. My daughter married a boy from Boston. And so when we had that horrible ice storm in Texas 2 years ago, it was a tragic storm, but
Mm-hmm.
we had to laugh at ourselves because none of us would drive. And Robert was like, I'll go. I'll go to your mom's house and check on her. I'll go to the store and get this. And we were like, go ahead.
Yeah, you know what? And here's the thing. If you do not know how to drive in snow, please don't do it.
No, no, thank
Don't,
you.
you
Yeah,
know?
I barely like to drive in the wind in the truck, because the wind, when that hits you, it hits the whole side of your van.
Yes. And you know what? Different areas have different topography, right? So as a
Yeah.
mobile groomer, I had basically one or two topographies in Connecticut. Flat open spaces, the highways,
Mhm.
or everything else was a hill and a curve, but it was buffeted by trees. Okay. So if it's 30-mile-an-hour winds and I'm going to be up in the mountains where everything is buffeted by trees, that's fine. I can do that.
Right.
Okay. I'm not going on the highway. Okay. Because
Right.
that 30-mile-an-hour wind is going to smack that van. And I have been moved over 2 lanes.
Hmm.
Okay. I'm going to tell you that wakes up everyone else around them. I guarantee you, after that van got moved over 2 lanes, okay, everyone got off their cell phones and paid attention to the road.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And that's what with me, my drive to work is all highway because I actually live in a little town called Sugarland. And we're in the Houston metro area, so it's like a small town feel right next to the big city. So literally 15 miles up the road is where I work. I don't work. I don't work where I live. I follow the money. The money is,
Mhm.
in the in the Houston area. Um, and I get a lot of people who are like, "Oh, it's all about the money." No, it's not all about the money. Well, it is, because I want to earn a good living. I want to be able to not have to groom, you know, 10 or 12 hours a day. I like to work
Yes.
I like to leave here at 8. I like to be home by 4:30 when possible. Sometimes it's 5. But I don't want to, and I work 4 days a week. Yes, I could work 5, but you know what? I love that Monday when everybody's gone and I can go to the dentist, because I can't go to my dentist on Saturday or Sunday. I
Yep.
can't go to my optometrist on Saturday or Sunday.
Yep.
I like to have that Monday off so that I can take care of business things for businesses that aren't open on the weekends.
So when my kids, or when I was an empty nester, right? My husband had off like either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday. And that was my weekend. It was
Hmm.
awesome because you know what?
Yeah.
Kids are in school. So if we actually want to do like a weekend and do like Tuesday through Thursday, you know what's not there? Crowds,
Kids.
kids,
Kids.
right? So that and doctor's appointments, I loved having them, having my schedule. I always worked, even when I was corporate, I worked Sundays, I worked Saturdays and Sundays. I wanted that Tuesday, Wednesday off.
Yeah. Well, I have always, because I started, when I was in a salon setting, the norm was Tuesday through Saturday. So I spent my first, probably till from 91 to 2004, working Saturdays. I had my first baby in 95. And I got to where I wanted to be home on the weekends with the kids. I wanted to do the Saturday Sunday thing. So when I moved to in 2004 and started working for the pet resort, I told them, I was like, I want weekends off. I'll work Monday through Friday. Plus Saturday and Sunday, you're not going to have traffic of coming in just for grooming. You've got your people that are here for boarding, because it was a boarding facility with grooming. So I said, my main day is going to be Monday for you guys. It's not going to be Saturday. First of all, you have limited hours on Saturday, and all your dogs are coming in on Friday to board. They're leaving on Monday. Mondays are a big day. So I really enjoyed having that um, Saturday, Sunday off when my kids were growing up, because then I was able to be the
Mhm.
soccer mom and the cheer mom and do all the normal things, and be home at a certain time. Once the kids got a little bit older and I went mobile, I went ahead and took Mondays off. So I do a 3-day weekend: Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's what's wonderful about being mobile is, being able to work the days you wish to work, you know?
yes.
I have my friend Beth, right out of the gate. She says, I'm not working weekends, Monday through Friday, until, we get busy. Then all of a sudden it's like, well, that's that whole, that 4-day week. You can 4-day work weeks for mobile groomers is very doable.
Yes, extremely doable. And when you have clients that book on a regular schedule, um, the days aren't hard. You can still make, I mean, I have a minimum fee, period. I don't care
Mhm.
if you're weekly or not. And I always taught the groomer, I teach in my classes, um, don't start at your happy price and then discount it for somebody who comes in every week or every 2 weeks. Your happy price should be what you charge your weekly dog.
Mhm.
Then your price should go up from there.
Yeah.
Your price should never go down. It should always go up.
Yep.
So your happy price is your minimum price that you're happy with,
Yep.
to keep your business going, and for you to make a decent salary.
Yeah. So I called it what it costs for me to pull down your driveway fee.
Exactly. Well, and we were talking about the 4-day schedule. I was the originator of the 28-day schedule, the 28-day month. And I see a lot of groomers that are like, oh, have you heard of the 28-day schedule? I'm like, yeah, I wrote it. Because I figured out, because it was trying to figure out those 6-weekers and those 8-weekers, and it would just kill me because they overlapped with my 2-weekers and my 4-weekers. So eventually, after probably my third or fourth year, I got rid of all my 6-weekers, especially those were the worst. And 8-weekers, I just didn't want to do anything that far
Yeah.
out. The dogs weren't well behaved. The dogs weren't well
Yep.
maintained. The owners were flaky. So I took it all down to, 1, 2, or 4 week, no 3-weekers, because that messes up the plan too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I figured out, if I can make all of my money in the 28 days of the month, or 28 days of the month, not because there's 30 and 31 days, then that always gives me a few extra days in the month that I don't have to worry about making money. And I could set my vacation times. And, the way it worked out is you have 52 weeks in a year, but if you're taking 2 weeks off of vacation, you're really down to 50 to make money. And then last year, I realized I have a lot of clients. My clients are very dedicated and very devoted, but my clients also like to leave town for the summer. And so I really, because they were such good clients, well, they were gone for the summer. I know a lot of people say, well, I charge them to hold their place. You could do that. You could. But some clients don't want to do that. And then if you put somebody else in their place, what if those people, when your other clients come back, you're overbooked. So what I did last year was I figured out what my price was for my clients, and I did it for 52 weeks. And I figured out how much money I made from that dog once a year. And then I figured out how many months they were gone. And then I raised my price so that the months that they were gone, I was making the money while they were in town, and I could put money away, and I didn't have to worry about the slimmer months. It wasn't too slim for me because the money was there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you know what? And when I first started, my husband worked for the New York City Transit Authority, and he got 5 weeks of vacation a year right off
Mm-hmm.
the bat. So the first thing I did when I got my very first appointment book is I X'd out 5 weeks of vacation right off
Yes.
but here's the thing. Okay. So I'm not working those 5 weeks. So my expenses, and this is, I think, where some business owners get tripped up. Okay. If I'm only working 47 weeks a year, okay,
Mm-hmm.
then the prices I charge, I can only make them during those 47 weeks. So
Right.
my year's expenses has to be divided over 47 weeks, not 52.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that means you've got to make more money
Yep.
than you would. You have to make more money per dog
Yes,
to make sure you meet that expense to last the 52 weeks.
exactly. All right. And
Yeah.
that's a business plan, folks. And if you don't have a business plan, you need to do one.
Yes. And the good thing is that, you've got Google, and you've got, all of these ways that you can find a way to write a business plan. But you need to be honest with yourself. You need to be
Yeah.
honest about what things cost. I keep my trucks, both my trucks are paid off. Yes, they are. They're in a warehouse. That warehouse cost me $1,600 a month. That is a van payment.
Yes, it
So I'm
is.
making the decision to keep my trucks, but because they're housed in a warehouse, they're better taken care of than being outside.
Yes.
So yes, both of my trucks are 2007s. They both run very well. Yes, I'm paying, just in the past 3 months, I probably spent $14,000 in repairs in both trucks. But it was generators, it was new tires, it was
Oh, tires
one
and
of them needed,
brakes.
one of them needed this 60,000-mile tune-up. The other one hadn't been driven in 7 years. So if we drive it down the road, something would break, we'd fix it. We'd drive it down the road a little bit further. And now I think we finally leveled out. But, yes, a new van is in the future for me. And that brings me to something that I've been seeing a lot. And that's these groomers. I hate to say that. That sounds like you're boxing them in, but you have a lot of groomers that are buying used vehicles. One, because they're less expensive. Two, because it's hard to get a new vehicle. It's 4,
Yes.
6, 8 months to get a new vehicle. I've seen where people are complaining, oh, well, I just bought a used truck and and this doesn't work. Guess what? It's a used truck.
Yeah. Well,
It's
that's
not going to be perfect. It is not new. It doesn't come with a warranty. And when I get ready to sell my truck, whoever buys it really needs to ride with me for 2 weeks
Well,
because I know the quirks of that truck.
yes. You know, I mean, I think that's a great idea. All right. When I sold, I sold two vans. One was the original van that I had. That thing was on the road for over 15 years. And as far as I know, it's still on the road.
Yeah.
And then I sold the 2016 that I got. And I knew that was going to be temporary to get the van, but
Hmm.
I wasn't ready to retire. But I don't think I realized just how temporary it was until I decided to do that. And here's the thing too, when I decided that I needed to set a date for retirement is hard for us. All right.
Hmm.
And it's because we're working with people and pets that we like. All right. So I literally set a date. This was my last day grooming. All right. And then I didn't schedule anything after that. All right.
Oh, I
And
can't imagine an empty calendar.
oh, you know what? Let me tell you something. It was not easy. It was not, well, you know what? I can just maybe an extra day. No, I set a date and I put big X's on the rest of the year so I couldn't write
Yeah.
anything in. And when it came down, my last two dogs was an Aussie. I did the big dogs up until the time I retired too. My last
Hmm.
two dogs was an Aussie and a Collie. And the Collie was ancient. And it was pretty much just hollowed out. So all the underbelly and inside of the legs was all gone, just had the coat on the outside. And a very well-behaved, large Aussie. Not too
Hmm.
bad on a coat. All right. But the dogs were done on a regular basis. And those were my last two dogs that I did. And I could just remember the next day going, I don't have anywhere to go. And it was just initially, it was that lost feeling. I didn't know what to do with myself. Okay. And then 3 weeks goes by and I realize my shoulders aren't hurting anymore.
First of all, you realize your shoulders weren't hurting, but you didn't realize when they were hurting that they were hurting because you just ignore it because you had to
Yeah.
continue to work.
Yeah. It's like I remember because I like to sleep on one side and I never could sleep on that one side because of my shoulder. And then I get up in
Uh-huh.
the morning and I realized I was sleeping on the side I like to sleep on and it wasn't hurting me.
I would be the one that would be like, okay, this dog is so old and I've been grooming him for so long. I've retired, but I'm going to keep grooming this dog until he passes.
You know, and I had to make that decision too with a little Chihuahua who
Yeah.
was difficult. And you know what? I still had to call it a day.
Yeah,
And
but
honestly,
I love him. And no
you
groomer's
know
going to
what?
love him like I do.
He's the dog that I base holistic pet grooming on was Pepe, the
Uh-huh.
Chihuahua. But you know what? He was already now at the point that honestly and truly, leave him alone. He doesn't really need grooming. Maybe just
Other
get
than
his,
toenails.
bring him into the vet to get his toenails done. Other than that,
Yeah.
leave this dog alone.
Yeah.
He might still be alive. I don't know. He was 16 when I left.
He's looking for you.
No, he's not. But
So
yeah,
there was something else I wanted to talk about that I really wanted to bring up about mobile grooming.
one of the things that I credit you was that you made a post one time because I know you're in Texas and I know how hot it gets. And you mentioned that you literally bring a gallon of water with you when you're
Hmm.
grooming. And I think
Yeah.
it was really like the first time I realized just how much water we ought to be drinking. Now, yeah, maybe Connecticut doesn't get stupidly as hot as Houston does in the summer. But you know what? That dehydration is a huge thing.
It is. It is. And I think, one of the big things is a lot of mobile grooming trucks don't have a bathroom. Um, that's why I got the elites because I'm a woman of a certain age and I need my own bathroom. Um, and so a lot of groomers will go without drinking water all day because they don't want to stop. You have to. You
Yeah.
have to. It's part of your body normal functions, you've got to get water in, you've got to get water out.
Yep.
And you've got to figure out how to do it, whether you're stopping at a gas station, whether you have certain clients that let you use their bathroom, or whether you're going to get one of those RV toilets, or they do the unspeakable, that being born in the age that I am like, I am not hiking my rear over a bathtub and peeing in the bathtub. I don't know
I'm
how
not
y'all do
peeing.
it.
I'm not, no, because you know what? That gets into your
No,
pipes and stuff. No, thank you.
thank you. It's gonna stink. It's gonna smell like a porta potty in there. Thank you very much.
Okay,
So
that's not to say I didn't have the big old Slurpee cup, which got dumped on the outside of the vehicle, not down the drain in my tub.
Right. But you should, I believe that you're supposed to drink, you're supposed to drink half of your body weight in ounces of water.
Yeah, that's the general rule. And that's a
Yeah.
lot of water. So let's say what happens when you put yourself in a state of dehydration. That affects your organs. That specifically affects your kidneys.
Mhm.
You're causing kidney damage by not drinking the amount of water you should be drinking.
Okay, so let's also go into your muscles.
Yes.
Your muscles that you're complaining that your back hurts and your arm hurts and your neck hurts and your shoulder hurts. All those muscles need water to work properly.
Yep.
So if you're dehydrating yourself, part of your pain, aches and pains that you're having at the end of the day is something that you can completely control by just adding water to your daily routine.
Yeah, for those who are getting up in the middle of the night because you have a leg cramp.
That, and your mind doesn't work as well. And let's face it, these trucks that we're driving are huge.
Yeah.
Just like a gallon of water weighs 8 pounds. So in my truck, it carries 100 gallons of water. Just in water alone, without the weight of the truck, I'm carrying 800 pounds of water. And if my mind's not working properly, water is just the foundation of everything that works in your body.
True. So drink your water.
Drink your water.
As we say there, and we've got, well, this is not water. This is plain old black tea with no sugar in it.
Well, this is water because I'm not with Carissa today. Carissa, we drink wine. But yeah, I think a lot of groomers don't even realize, if you take a little bit more time, raise your prices a little bit, do less work, take some time for yourself. You talked about the water. We talked about how every part of your body needs water. But for those that are having back problems and knee problems and shoulder problems, get to a good gym. Find a good trainer that say, look, this is what I do for a living. This is where I need to have strength. How can I build strength in my upper back, in my lower back, in my legs, and go to a trainer? And I think that makes a world of difference too. For a long time, I did that. I don't do it so much now because right now I'm with taking on the second truck where I just don't even feel like I stop. I get home, it's business, business, business. We're in the middle of changing software companies. We're in the middle of changing credit card fee, credit card processing companies. Of course, we're coming to the end of the year, so it's busy holiday season, trying to make sure I have everything that we both need, from towels to bandanas, and getting payroll done. It's just really busy. And I'm hoping by the end of this year, once we finish taxes and all that, starting into the new year, I'll have a little bit more time so I can get back in the gym, because I'm seeing now, as I'm hitting my now that I'm in my 50s, my muscles have changed and they are changing. And I do realize it's coming on. I can say all day, oh, well, I'm the groomer who doesn't have, I'm not even going to say it out loud, but that thing that messes up your arm, because if I say it out loud, it's going to happen. But I haven't had those issues. But I do know now, as I'm getting older, it's important that I start maintaining my body even more. Not to try and fit into a bikini, because that's never going to happen. Nobody wants to see that. But just to keep myself at a strength level that works for my business.
Yeah. And I think we're going to finish up with, eat breakfast and eat lunch. stop and have lunch. And
I'm a faster, actually. I
see,
fast.
no,
Now, I did a lot of research, and I actually talked to my doctor. And the way that I fast, I keep track of what I fast and when I eat and what I don't eat and how many calories I take in. So fasting works for me.
all right, but you're
I
under a
can't do
doctor.
breakfast.
All right,
Yes,
but you have a discussion with your doctor about that.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So I need breakfast and I need lunch. And one of the beautiful things about mobile grooming is that, you know what, there's lots of places, especially, oh my God, in Connecticut, lakes and parks everywhere. I could pull into any place midday, have a lunch, walk around the trail, get back in the vehicle and get going.
Yeah.
And what a difference that break does for you when you stop
Yes.
midday, give your brain, get yourself off the hamster wheel for half hour, get back on, and you're ready and raring to go rather than, that coming down.
I'm really one of those groomers who really just likes to start my morning, work through my day, and get done. I think that just comes from how I've always worked my whole life. Like I said, I started making dogs with my mom when I was 9, and literally my mom did not believe in breaks at all whatsoever. Here's a glass of iced tea, keep trucking, kid. But I have to say my mom did build a really strong work ethic in me, and I'm one of those people. I just like, once I've got my nose to the grindstone, I like to keep it there till I'm done. And I like I like to see the beginning and I like to see the end. And for me, I don't even, it just kind of all flows. That's just the way I always have been. Even when I worked retail, it was like, this is the start of my day, this is the end of my day. And I think even back then I skipped lunch. But that's what works for me. But I do know a lot of groomers that like to take that middle of the day and take a break. But I also know a lot of groomers that like to start at 10 a.m. And finish at 6 or 7. Where man, if I could be at people's houses at 8 a.m., I would be there if there wasn't for the stinking noise ordinance.
You know what? I initially started my day at 8 o'clock. I then moved it to 8:30. And by the time I retired, I started at 10 o'clock. But more importantly for me, I wanted to be home before it got dark.
Yeah.
So coming home coming home in the dark, my van is clean, is ready to go. I'm in the house before the sun sets. And that made a huge difference for my mental health to be able to do that.
Yeah, I like to be home. I like to leave early in the morning and I like to be home for dinner. I prefer to get off between 4 and 5 than to get off between 5 and 7. But I've always been, I'm just an early bird. I get more done in the morning than most people get done in the afternoon.
That's your peak operating time.
I get up in the morning. And like I said, I get up in the morning, shower, hair, makeup. I'll empty the dishwasher. I'll reload the dishwasher. I'll do payroll. I'll go through the books for the day. Hello, this is Maverick. He's coming to say hello. He's like, Mom, love me now. I get so much done in the morning. And it's kind of frustrating for me and people that live with me, because when they get home in the afternoon, they're ready to do stuff. And I'm like, no. I already did everything this morning. I'm ready to go watch TV in my bed. 6 o'clock, I could be in bed watching TV.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know what your peak operating time is. So for me, it is not 5 o'clock in the morning. If I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning, there is something wrong. Okay.
We used to literally go to the gym at 4:30 in the morning. My husband and I would.
No. But my brain doesn't operate well early in the morning. My brain operates best from, I could be as early as 10 o'clock. But honestly, if I'm doing things that require brain power, it's better that I start after 12.
Yeah, no, and you know what? And that's kind of why I fast too. Once I eat, my brain turns to mush. I really can't even, my mind works better in a fasted state than it does once I've eaten. That's crazy.
Yeah. So like right now here it's 4:30. All right. And I'm basically in the middle of my day. All right.
Yeah. I'm looking at the clock going, it's 6:30 in an hour and a half. Everything needs to be done so I can go to bed. And I have no problem being asleep at 9 o'clock.
I don't have a problem being asleep at 9 either. But you
Yeah.
know what? This is I'm in the middle of my workday right now.
Yeah. No, 4 o'clock, I'm winding down, definitely. There was something I wanted to bring up and I can't think about it. I can't think what it was because my brain's already slowing down for the day.
Well, if you wanted to illustrate that point, you just did that. All right. So what's the next trade show you're going to be at?
I'm not sure. Waiting to get our schedules from Wall. I am, as you know, I'm a
Ambassador.
I am part of the Wall Clipper team. It's the end of the day.
All right. Obviously, we need to end this up.
All right. I don't even need a glass of wine. I'm part of the Wall Elite team. So we're waiting to get our schedules. And then once I get the schedule from them, then I contact other vendors that I work with and see what they've got available for me. Usually Wall will have me do Tacoma. Tacoma is one that I love to do. And they know my son is stationed up there. So they always send me there. And so I think I did Atlanta last year, which means I'll do Hershey this year. They trade us off. We do every other year. And I'm not sure what other ones they'll send me to this year. We're, coming out of COVID. A lot of the big companies, a lot of the vendors are trying to catch back up for all the lost salaries and wages and, that happened during COVID. Big business is even having a hard time coming back up. So they've all slowed down on the shows. But I think this year is going to be an upswing for all the vendors.
Good.
And I'm really excited about that. I'm hoping to get some new classes, some new business classes up this year. And I love going to the shows. I love meeting the new groomers. It's growing so fast. And I just like to see groomers get past their 5-year point.
Yeah.
It seems like 5 year is the point where they decide whether they're going to stay in the industry or not. And we lose a lot of groomers at 5 years.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know if you see that trend.
You know what? I probably did it. It might be very well true. I don't think I noticed that though.
Yeah, and I think it's just keeping the younger groomers motivated. Of course, they have to hear our stories about back when I was grooming and we didn't have high velocity dryers. I remember those days. I remember having to all we had were cage dryers and a fluff dryer. So all dogs went in the cage dryer, and then the last 10 minutes you fluff dried everything.
Yep.
There were no high velocity dryers.
Yeah, and for the mobile groomers, I remember my first navigation system. You know what that ran me?
What?
$1,000 for a Magellan.
I never used a navigation system until it was available on my phone. But I live where I've always lived my entire life, and I could use a key map like it was nobody's business. And I know most of the Houston area because when my parents manufactured dryers, I went to all the grooming shops here in the Houston area to sell dryers or drop off grooming clothing. I can read a key map like it's nobody's business. And if that doesn't make you old.
Yeah, I know. I still had the Rand McNally. I think I literally just tossed when we moved out here to Washington. I think I tossed all the Rand McNally maps that I had. And there was quite a number of them.
I could read a map for sure. I have a good, I'm probably not as good as I used to be. I remember I used to could just remember people's phone numbers. Like,
yeah, I know.
I know my number. I know my husband's number. I think I could guess my kids' numbers if I had to. If I had to.
That's why they're saved in the phone.
Yeah. But yeah, it's changed a lot. This industry has changed a lot. I think it's changed for the better. And I'm really excited. Oh, I know what I wanted to talk about. I think that a lot of groomers, we were talking about a lot of people going mobile. And the one thing about my employee that I have now is at one point she wanted to run her own business. And then she realized in the past couple of years that she's better as an employee than she is an owner. And I think there needs to be more discussion within our industry that not every groomer needs to be an owner. And it's okay to be an employee.
Yes.
An employee can reap really good benefits if you find the right place to work.
Yes.
You find the people that appreciate you. And, you know, business owners need to reach out to their groomers and appreciate them more and put themselves in their position and remember what it was like to be an employee.
Yeah.
And help support them a little bit better, because there's so many businesses that are open now that you have owners with good intentions but just don't have the tools that they need to be good owners. And sometimes it's better to be an employee, and it's okay to be an employee. Just because
Yeah.
you're an employee and you're not you don't own your own mobile or you don't own your own salon doesn't mean that you're not successful.
Yeah.
And so it's great to strive for that before you really jump in to become an owner. Think about it, do your research, talk to your CPA or a tax person, talk to somebody who's in the business and can give you a real idea. I'm all for people opening businesses, and I will talk to a groomer. And I help to mentor many on whether they should go, whether they should go on their own or work for somebody else. But it's not a have to. You don't have to own a business in the industry to be successful. I think my husband's home.
Okay. So then on that note, Judi, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really have looked forward to this since you invited me, and I really had a good time tonight. Thank you so much.
All right. I'll see you around, Judi.
All right. Good night.
Good night.